3 bands, 3 jobs, 1 compressor. Here's exactly which band is doing what and why you need all 3 working together, not just the one. If you watched last week's video, you already know why a single band compression fights against your bass. Well, in this video, we're going to open up the dark glass Anagram Ignissor and look at exactly how multi-band compression solves the problem. Let's check it out. Hey, I'm Twisty from TwistieOnBass, and this is part 2 of a multi-band compression series that I've been working on. Previously, we covered why a single band compression can't win the trade-off between the low end and your mids. So today we're going to go inside the dark glass Anagram Ignissor and look at the 3 bands one at a time, what each one actually controls, and why splitting the signal into 3 jobs makes the whole thing click instead of feeling like more knobs to be confused by. You don't need to have watched the first episode, although it'd be nice if you did, but by the end of this video, multi-compression will make complete sense to you. Multi-band compression often intimidates people who'd otherwise be all over it. A regular compressor has 4 or 5 parameters: threshold, ratio, attack, release, and on some of them maybe a knee setting. You learn these once, and then every compressor you touch after that is basically the same thing. They sound a little bit different, but the process of setting it will be familiar to you. When you open a multi-band compressor for the first time, suddenly you've got 3 sets of those same parameters, plus crossover points, deciding where one band ends and the next one begins. It does look like there's 3 times the complexity for presumably some vague benefit that you've been told exists, probably by me in the previous video. So a lot of players who would generally benefit from this never touch it. Not because it's actually hard, but because it looks hard. And there aren't many people breaking down what each band is actually for and how this works. There's lots of videos on the internet at the moment around the Ignissor, but no one is really explaining how it works. So that's what we're going to look into today. The first time I opened a multi-band compressor, I closed it again within about 30 seconds. There were 3 sets of identical knobs. I had no idea where to start. And so I just went back to the single band compressor that I'd been using for ages. It wasn't until I forced myself to solo each band down into its own, listen to just the low band doing its job, then the mids doing its, and then the highs. That's when it started to click to me on how this was actually working. Each one was simple on its own, and I'd been trying to understand the whole thing as a complex unit all at once, instead of one band at a time. So that's the approach that we're going to go through today. Let's start with the low band, because this is where the mass of your bass actually lives. Now, the low band's job is to smooth out the peaks in your low end without clamping down too much on the fundamentals of every note. So the approach here is a gentle, slow attack that's going to let the fundamental develop before the compression reacts. And then a moderate ratio that tames the peaks without strangling the body of the note. Now, the mistake that most bass players make when they first set up this band is they go way too hard on it. You hear a lot of low end energy and assume it needs to be controlled, but it doesn't. Slow the attack, keep the ratio modest, and then let the band do its job in the background. If you can hear it obviously working, then the compressor's obviously doing too much. So let's have a look at the Anagram and the Ignissor itself. So under the advanced settings, I can have each of the 3 bands soloed. So we're going to look at the low band first, so we're going to solo that. So here we've got a threshold set at around -24. You can see that the compression ratio itself is fairly light, 2 to 1. I'm not trying to compress that, I'm just trying to level off that bottom end. And then I've got a fairly fast attack and release. Now if I play that through without the compressor on, fairly clean. If I then turn the compressor on just on the low band itself, So you can hear the top, the mids and the tops aren't in there because I've cut those off because I'm soloing just the bass end. But it's nice and tight, nice tight sound there. The harmonics are still ringing out. So I haven't cut anything off. I've just tightened that bottom end quite a lot. So then we look at the mid band itself, you'll hear a completely different job happening. This is the band that's doing most of the consistent work of all of the three bands. Your mid-range content, the fills, the lines up the neck, the melodic passages that you do, vary a lot in levels across the register and across your playing styles. Sometimes you'll dig in, sometimes you won't. Sometimes you'll slap, sometimes you won't. The mid band's job is dynamic consistency. It's more active than the low band and has a faster attack and a lower threshold because it needs to be able to react quickly and keep upper register notes at a usable level. Now that might sound counterintuitive. The more active the mids, the gentler the lows. But that's exactly what makes multi-band work well on a bass guitar. The low end doesn't need that consistent management. It just needs peak control. The mids do need a consistent management because that's where the dynamic variation actually lives in your playing. So now let's look at the mid-range. If I go to the mid-range and I solo the mid-range, again for reference, there's no compressor on there. If I now only solo in the mids, so I'm not going to have any lows, I'm not going to have any highs. You can see that's now actively working and compressing where I need to keep the dynamic range as I slap and pop and do stuff across that fretboard. If this type of information is helpful to you, don't forget then to subscribe to the channel so that you can get notified when the next one comes out. Especially since the next one we're going to talk about harmonic signatures and how multi-band compressors will help you with your harmonics and making them pop. Now the last one we're going to look at is the high band. This band is going to work differently to both of the others. So think of this less of an active compressor and more like a ceiling or a limiter. It's not going to ride your signal consistently. It only engages on the sharpest transients, things like pick attack spikes or slap pops or string noise, and it catches those specific moments without touching the rest of your sound. Now the threshold will sit high and the attack will be really fast. So most of the time, the gain reduction meter on this will barely move. And when it does move, it's catching something that would otherwise stick out uncomfortably or sound really bad in your mix. So when you solo it, look for the moments it catches rather than the consistent gain reduction that you're seeing in that mid-range band. Now, I'm not using a very high gain solution here at the moment. So you're not going to hear that much coming out of this preset, but if you're using an overdrive or a distortion or a high fuzz type sound where that upper register has a lot more sound in it, then this was where this will start to kick in more. Because at the moment, if I play along, you probably can't hear anything. You can see it pops in a little bit when I'm doing that slap. Sorry for the bad slapping. Now, to me, the most complex part of this multi-band compression is the crossover points. Let's think of the crossover points like the walls between three rooms in a house. Everything that happens in the low room stays in the low room. Everything happens in the mid room happens in the mid room. And then everything that happens in that high-end room stays in the high-end room. If you move the wall, then you change what falls into each room, but it doesn't change what the room does. So if you set the attack and threshold, etc. ratios for that room, you're just increasing the amount of frequencies or things that are stuffed into that room. but then you're reducing one or two of the other rooms to compensate. You're not changing the job of the low band or the mid band. You're just deciding where one room ends and the other one starts. Now the Ignissor gives you control over where these walls sit, so you can match the specific split to your specific bass and string gauge and distortion and tone that you're looking for. Now, the starting point that I recommend on the Ignissor is leaving crossover 1 at around 200 Hertz. So the room at the bottom end goes up to 200, and then crossover 2 is at 2.5 kilohertz. So between 200 and 2.5 is your mid room, and then everything above 2.5 becomes your high-end room. You can then adjust that from there based on your playing and your style and your ears. One of the really cool things that Darkglass have done with the Anagram is their graphical interface and the touchscreen. So if I look at the Ignissor, you can see the two dots. Now they're showing where my room walls are. So I've got the low wall going up to 200 Hertz, as we said, and then the high wall kicks in at 2.5 kilohertz. Now if I don't want that or I want to adjust that, it's simply a matter of making the lower room smaller, less things in it, or less frequencies being affected by those lower settings, or increasing it so that more things are being affected by those settings and less by what's being set for the mid-range. I can do the same thing with the high frequencies. I can give the high frequencies more control, or I can give the high frequencies less control. So this is all about deciding which frequencies or which things in the room are being controlled by the settings for that room. Now, if you're using a HX Stomp instead of the Anagram, then there is a 3-band comp, multi-comp in the HX or the Helix platform family. But the big difference between what's happening in the Helix model versus the Ignissor is that the Ignissor has independent ratio, attack, and release. And that's what's giving you that surgical control over the mids and lows and the highs. Gentle and slow on the lows, active and faster on the mids, and very fast with a high threshold on those highs. Now, on the HX Stomp 3-band comp, the ratio, the attack, and the release are global. So all 3 bands have the same settings. One setting applies across all 3. Now you can still set those independent thresholds per band, and that does most of the work, but the timing and ratio compromise is now built in because of that shared ratio. Now you can optimize the global attack for the low band around 45 milliseconds, which then means that the mid band is working with a slower attack than ideal, but for most players that's probably going to be okay. And it's not a bad trade-off. And it is a significant improvement over what a single band compressor is giving you today. Where it does start to make an impact is when we start dealing with harmonics, artificial harmonics, etc. And that'll make more sense when we move to the next video in the series, where we start talking about harmonic control and what we need to adjust that mid-range band for to deal with making those harmonics pop without affecting the rest of the signal. So HX Stomp users, you still do have a multi-band, and most of what we talked about will exist. You're just limited to the global settings. Multi-band compression isn't just 3 compressors stacked on each other to make things more complicated for you. It's 3 specific narrow jobs: low-end smoothing, mid-range consistency, and then high-end peak control. Each one gets handled on its own terms instead of being forced through the same single settings that you get on a single band comp. Now, once you hear what each band is doing in isolation, the whole thing stops looking like 12 confusing knobs. It just becomes 3 simple decisions instead of one compromised decision made for all of them at once. Now, once you've got the Ignissor dialed in for your tone and sound, and you're happy with the basic settings, the next video in the series is going to be about how to make those harmonics pop out. So make sure you stick around for that one, and check this video out in the meantime. Catch ya.